The realm. Do you know what the realm is? It's the 1,000 blades of Aegon's enemies. A story we agreed to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon video. In this video, I will be giving my initial thoughts on the very first episode of HBO's new Game of Thrones series, House of the Dragon. Well, my friends, the day we have all been waiting for is finally here. Now, I don't usually do this, but now that House of the Dragon is actually here, I think it should be celebrated. Now, I gotta be honest, I wasn't sure if this day would ever come. After the divisive Game of Thrones ending, and the cancelling of the Long Night series, I did wonder if something would happen to House of the Dragon before it actually aired. Thankfully, it is finally here, and I must say, the very first episode was great. The first thing I want to do is get into some of the things I liked about this episode. I think this first episode did a great job at setting everything up for this first season. Right out of the gate, we are shown that the matter of succession will be the main conflict of this series, something that is very reminiscent of Game of Thrones. I mean, it's no secret why the main series, as well as George R. R. Martin's first novel in the A Song of Ice and Fire series, is named A Game of Thrones. The matter of succession will be the backbone of this new show, and it wasn't long before we started seeing how this would affect each of the new characters in House of the Dragon. Now, before I get into all of that, I want to mention the first scene after the cold opening. Again, I have to be honest, I would be lying if I said I didn't feel a little emotional when the music swelled right at the beginning of this episode when we saw Rhaenyra flying over the Red Keep for the first time. It felt amazing to finally be back in Westeros again. They did a great job at making this feel like we're right back in Game of Thrones without making it feel like the exact same show. There's something about the whole aesthetic of this show that I really like. I don't know why, but most of the scenes that are shot outside make me feel like I'm walking around inside of a dream. I don't know if it's the effects they use or some sort of filter, but the whole aesthetic is great if you ask me. It was actually nice seeing the Red Keep alive and filled with friendly visitors at the beginning, unlike in Game of Thrones where it almost always had this ominous and dark feeling whenever we were inside of this castle. I thought this was a good way of setting up who Viserys Targaryen is. We immediately see how Viserys Targaryen is unlike many of the other kings we have seen or heard of before. He is a nice guy, although he might be a little soft for the Iron Throne. It was interesting how we kept seeing the Iron Throne make him bleed, foreshadowing how he might not be sitting there for much longer. Now, as soft as Viserys is, I also did like that we finally saw he does have some fire inside of him, when he started flexing his muscles near the end of the episode, when everyone started telling him who he should name as his successor. I also really like how they set up Sir Otto Hightower, easily one of my favorite characters to watch already. He's not going to let someone walk all over him, and he's not afraid to speak his mind, even when he's addressing the king about his very own brother. Sir Otto gives me those Littlefinger vibes, especially after the way he had his daughter go visit Viserys after his wife and son had just died. He let us know right away that he does have his eyes set on the Iron Throne, even if that means sacrificing his own daughter's innocence. Now, as disgusting as that might be, and as hateable as he might become, I think it makes for a very interesting character. I thoroughly enjoyed his interactions with Daemon Targaryen as well. They set up their relationship and hatred for one another right away, and it should make for some very interesting scenes in the future. Another one of my favorite moments from this episode was Daemon's introduction. Now, I will say, no one's will ever be as great as Lord Tywin Lannister's, but I still enjoyed his nonetheless. It sort of reminded me of Jaime Lannister's scene when Ned Stark saw him sitting in front of the Iron Throne when he arrived in King's Landing. Any dominance Daemon might have lacked in the first scene was certainly made up for in his second when we meet him in the City Watch. He immediately made a statement to everyone living in that city. His justice is vicious, but I must say, it did help the first half of this episode for me because the beginning did feel like a slow burn. Although it was very understandable because they had to set everything up. The addition of several Targaryens speaking in High Valyrian is great as well. It further demonstrates just how different these Targaryens are from everyone else, as if their hair and dragon riding wasn't enough. Now, speaking of the dragons, they look amazing as well. Having this many big-ass dragons in the very first episode alone lets us know this isn't your daddy's Game of Thrones show. We don't have to wait several seasons before we start seeing massive dragons flying around in the sky. House of the Dragon is giving us that right out of the gate. I also love just how different some of them look from Daenerys' dragons. I mean, Daemon's dragon actually does look like a damn bloodworm, with its long neck and body. It looks kind of odd at first, but I really like it because it does make him stand out from the rest. Unlike Game of Thrones, they're finally giving all of these dragons their own characteristics they've always deserved. I really like Rhaenyra and Alicent's relationship in the episode. Their friendliness and fondness of one another is only setting up even greater scenes down the road once they have their falling out. It will make their relationship even more heartbreaking once we see how violent things actually get once the Dance of the Dragons begins. Now, one thing I was not expecting was the scene with Viserys Targaryen's wife, Aemma Arryn. I must say, the scene of her giving birth to their son was brutal, and I was not expecting to see Viserys make the decision to save the son. Now, they made it obvious how badly he wanted a son, but it did not seem like he would do that after the way they were setting him up. This does seem like an afterthought, however, after watching his wife lose her life for the son. This might sound messed up, but for me, this is when the episode really started to get good. I thought the second half of this episode was a lot better than the first, once they had most of the main characters established. Now, if you're someone who has read Fire and Blood, or even A Song of Ice and Fire, I'm sure you notice how fast and loose they were with some of the source material. Jaehaerys shouldn't have been there during the Great Council, Rhaenys' son should have been there during the election, and the werewood shouldn't have been in King's Landing either, and so on and so forth. I don't think it should have a major effect on the overall story, although the verdict is still out until we see the rest of the episodes from this season. Like I said earlier, I think this was a great episode to start off the show. The only thing it was really missing is one of those big major moments like Game of Thrones' first episode had. If you remember, that first episode began with the White Walkers, and it ended with Bran being thrown from the window. This episode did not necessarily have one of those hooks or cliffhangers like the original series, but there are many amazing moments still to come. For my initial thoughts, I say they did a great job at reintroducing everyone to Westeros. It did a great job at setting up who everyone is, and their relationships with one another. As always, the sets look amazing, the costumes look phenomenal, and the overall production is what you would expect from an HBO series. As you can imagine, I'm very interested and eager to see where everything goes from here on out. Let me know what you thought about everything down below. I will be making my full breakdown video in the following days, as well as my teaser breakdown video for the next episode. Make sure you subscribe now because I will be making a lot of videos during each and every week of this season. As always, I want to thank everyone for watching this video. I hope you all have a great day. I will see you again very soon. Bye.